Ritter's inevitable Firehouse 51 exit continues a frustrating Chicago Fire character trend that should stop. As many already know, Daniel Carey's Darren Ritter is leaving Chicago Fire ahead of the season 14 premiere, and his exit has continued a disappointing trend that needs to be broken. The NBC procedural drama has lost many cast members over the years. Some actors and actresses have left due to wanting to seek other projects, while others have been forced out for creative reasons. Unfortunately for Carey and Jake Lockett, who plays Sam Carver and is also leaving Chicago Fire, his departure can be attributed to budget cuts made by the network. In the past couple of seasons of Chicago Fire, the cast members have taken turns sitting out of episodes in an effort made by NBC to reduce costs. However, that apparently wasn't enough for the network. And now, Carey and Lockett are paying the price. Based on the events of the Chicago Fire Season 13 finale, it's evident that the producers weren't planning on writing out either Ritter or Carver. Nevertheless, they are leaving, and Carey's exit continues an unsettling pattern within the One Chicago series. Based on everything we know behind the scenes, Ritter's departure from the NBC procedural drama is unavoidable, even if the season 13 finale didn't address his exit at all. He is leaving Firehouse 51 ahead of the Chicago Fire season 14 premiere. The network won't suddenly reverse its decision, despite fan uproar, because it originates from a problem that NBC seemingly can't fix without getting rid of cast members. So just like that, Ritter is gone. Ritter was hardly in the Chicago Fire season 13 finale, making many confused as to how and why he would leave the show. He had just moved in with Lizzie Novak and is now a single man. The world is his oyster, and yet NBC is snatching that away from Ritter and all the fans who love him and want to see him succeed. Viewers will likely learn more about Ritter's departure when season 14 is released. However, since Carey is already gone, he won't be around to give his character's story a satisfying ending. The premiere will probably just explain Ritter's absence in an offhand comment, which is disappointing and disrespectful. Before it was announced that Ritter and Carver were leaving Chicago Fire after season 13, Chief Wallace Bowden and Derek Gibson, two black men, were the last two characters to exit the series. Now, with Ritter's departure, 3 black characters have left Chicago Fire in the past few seasons. So, unless NBC announces any cast additions before season 14 premieres, there are 0 black male actors in the main cast. Heck, there aren't any in the recurring cast either. Going forward, the cast of Chicago Fire isn't looking as diverse as it once was, which is quite disconcerting, given the fact that it takes place in a very diverse city. It certainly doesn't help that 3 black men make up some of the most recent exits. Ritter's departure ultimately continues a trend that needs to stop. But given Chicago Fire's history, it's unlikely that the show will change its ways. Despite being a main character for 5 seasons and a recurring character for 2 seasons before that, Chicago Fire consistently overlooked and underutilized Ritter for the duration of his time on the series. He has always felt like a side character, only getting a couple of semi-important storylines here and there. Consequently, the One Chicago universe underappreciating Ritter hasn't gone unnoticed. Now that he was one of the first options to boot from Firehouse 51 when budget cuts had to be made, it's clear that NBC has never recognized Ritter's value. It's a shame because, from what we saw of Ritter, he was undoubtedly one of Chicago Fire's best characters. Cut deep, and some exits feel rushed. And then there are exits we all see coming. The ones we wish we hadn't gotten a preview for, the ones we know, deep down, reflect not just a character's journey, but a larger pattern in a show we love. That's exactly where we find ourselves with Ritter's inevitable departure from Firehouse 51. His eventual exit, which has been rumored for months, and all but confirmed by a growing number of reports, underscores a frustrating trend in Chicago Fire, letting rich, well-liked, and underdeveloped characters go without fully exploring their potential. A trend that should be addressed and abolished if the show wants to maintain its authenticity and character-centric roots. The loss we all saw coming. Darren Ritter, Daniel Carey, has always been a quiet anchor at 51, a firefighter who provided not just physical muscle on a call, but a moral center within the team. His growth from a nervous newcomer under Herman's wing to a strong, reliable team member made him a perfect embodiment of what the show stands for: the ability to conquer doubts, to learn from those around you, and to become a hero in your own right. But now, just when we were seeing Ritter come into his own, rumors about his departure have become hard to ignore. The writing seemed to be on the wall when we started seeing less of him in key scenes, less of his interaction with Mouch, Herman, and Kid, the people who raised him up, and more hints that something else might be pulling him away from 51. This isn't just a typical character exit. It highlights a pattern that Chicago Fire has fallen into. Again and again, we see rich side stories cut short or dismissed in service of reshaping the main narrative. It's a frustrating trend, and it's one that the show should reconsider if it wants to keep its soul. A frustrating trend that needs to stop. Ritter isn't the first character to suffer this fate. There's a trail of unfinished stories left in the wake of exits like these, from Gabby Dawson and Otis to Mills and Foster. Each was a character we fell in love with, someone we were meant to grow alongside, only to watch their journeys cut off just when we were most invested in their future. It highlights a structural weakness in the show's writing, a tendency to treat certain roles as expendable, regardless of their narrative potential. This pattern isn't just frustrating for fans. It signals a lack of confidence in the stories these people carry. The writers seem unsure of what to do with a character once their initial arc has been resolved. Instead of developing them further, adding depth, letting relationships grow, letting struggles emerge, it's often easier to cut ties and start anew. But this approach disregards the rich character development that made the show a phenomenon in the first place. Why Ritter was so important to Firehouse 51. Ritter wasn't a superstar like Severide or a legacy character like Herman, but that's precisely what made him special. He represented a new generation of firefighters, the future, and through his struggles, doubts, and triumphs, we saw ourselves in him. His friendship with Gallo and Violet was a touching thread in the show's rich tapestry. Their bond made 51 feel less like a workplace and more like a family. Furthermore, Ritter was a powerful representation of an openly gay firefighter, a piece of visibility that is all too rare in network television. His character challenged homogeneous portrayals of first responders and opened a door to stories about loyalty, friendship, and service from a fresh perspective. To cut him off just when his character was blooming not only feels like a narrative disservice, it feels like a step backward in representation. The impact on the squad's chemistry. Every character's departure ripples through the team. It's not just a person gone, it's a piece of their communal soul removed. With Ritter gone, Firehouse 51 will lose a key thread tying generations together. His relationships were a kind of moral compass for the group. When someone fell off track, Ritter was often there to center them, to bring their doubts back into focus. Furthermore, his exit underscores a messy reality the show frequently disregards: the human cost of change. Guys like Herman and Mouch, who treated him like a son, will feel his absence profoundly. Kello, who called him a friend and a brother, will be left wondering if the next person will disappear just as quickly. The friendships and loyalty that made 51 a family will suffer a dramatic shock, a shock the writers sometimes underestimate.